All right, man. We could be on fire today. We're already warmed up.
We have got a very, very good lather here going on November 10th, 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and you're listening to episode 624.
Yep. Never undervalue the warm-up.
No, yes, seriously, that's like something we're just now figuring out. We used to kind of go in cold sometimes, which I'm sure was recognizable. But yeah, we've been getting a lather going. We've been talking for 30 minutes in our pre-show meeting, getting amped up and talking through all things life. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. And in general, your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. No, we cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, not just as human beings on this planet, but also as athletes and coaches ourselves. We also talk a lot about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I both work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at their very first sprint, or even 5K, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona and everyone in between. And we'll use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Great community and an outstanding resource, again, for both the seasoned veteran and the beginner. A lot of great people in there who have been around the block. They've seen it all. They've gone through things, they've experienced things, and are always willing to share their experience and hopefully help you avoid those things. So be part of that amazing community, and we'll go in there at least once a month and do a little bit of a Q&A where we take the pulse of the community, answer as many questions as we can, and then answer those live on the podcast. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And we were talking about a bunch of stuff. So much of it, kind of boils down to that movement is medicine thing that we talk about. And I was thinking about how changing your thoughts can kind of change your energy. And now, should I just start? I mean, I had a couple athletes, and this is kind of how it kicked off. I had two athletes this week, both text me, and they both went rogue off of their workouts, and one was a run, and he was on in a new place, and he had a little short run scheduled, I think, and he decided to just keep going. I think he was running up a big mountain, and he ended up going like in 2 hours overboard, but it was one of those things where he said, I just felt it, I was feeling it today. And then another guy had, just kind of a typical hour-ish swim, and he texted me and he said, Coach, I went rogue. I said he went over 4,100, and it was like way out of his ever zone. And, it was just like this whole thing about seizing the moment, kind of taking a chance when you feel it. I think that's kind of what this sport is about sometimes, and you just never sort of know when it is. And you just, because if you're, say you're training for a long distance triathlon and you've really never hit some of these barriers, and sometimes you just got to be looking out for that day. It kind of goes back to my first training, and I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. We went out to Natchez Trace, and I just was planning on riding 60 miles or whatever, and you're like, come on, we're going back out. And ended up pushing me over 100. And it was just not even on my radar that morning. I had no thought of it, but once you get through it, it's sort of like, wow, I just did that. Now I know what I have. You know what I mean? It takes the mystery away, and it just sort of like, it kind of creates a new athlete inside you. And there's like a confidence level or experience level, and we talk about it all the time, but sometimes it's the best way to get better at racing is just to kind of do more races, because there's a lot of things you learn in those situations that they can't be really taught or talked about. And that's what I look at sometimes in training or in life, is just taking that chance and finding those limits on your own when you're feeling it. You just gotta kind of be aware of it when it happens and just let it go and do it. I just thought that was kind of a cool thing, because it's important for us all to be we all want to kind of see things for ourselves. And when the opportunity presents itself, you got to go get it.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot of W's lately. We've covered the why, we've covered the want, and now we're kind of covering the work and the want to work. And that's, and athletes, we call it going rogue because they just kind of go off script, and which is something that we are generally okay with as long as it's responsible. And the biggest question is always, I mean, like you asked, and I asked the same thing of an athlete the other day, and I was like, why'd you go long? And because I think it's as a coach, it's important to always ask, like, why. It's not because it's not in a shameful way, or you shouldn't have done that. It's like, it's important information to have, because there's a bunch of different reasons why you might want to do something. It could be insecurity, right? It could be, I feel like I'm falling behind, or I had a bad day, or, I just feel like I got to do more because the training isn't right. Like, all things a coach needs to know. 99.9% of the time, I just felt like I needed it today.
Mm-hmm.
I felt, and I think one of the most, and again, like, there's, we deal with, data and scientific research and stuff, just like every other coach does. But one of the biggest things that we do focus on and will continue to focus on forever is, it's kind of that phrase, like, know thyself. Know what you need, and don't turn a blind eye to it. Right. Because going back to the previous, last 2 weeks of podcasts about, creating resistance, you might, go out and I don't want to ride with the group today. I need to do my 1 hour and 15-minute perfectly done, zone 2 ride inside alone. And you like skip the whole like camaraderie and socialization and like going out. Because it might be your heart rate might be 3 beats higher, and you might ride 0.2 mile an hour faster. Like, it's about kind of troubleshooting. What's the gain here? Right. And is there really a risk at all? And if there is, does the opportunity for success totally overwhelm and overshadow any amount of risk that might happen? Because your body usually tells you something, but it's like this, like, really weird. It's like you call it your subconscious, what's going on, but people generally feel things are about to happen, right? You and I have talked about this as long as we've been, partners, is that, like, we just kind of, we go with our gut a lot, we just kind of feel things. We don't open up textbooks, and overanalyze why we're feeling a certain way. We kind of go with it, like, yeah, that seems and feels right. At least you're going with your gut, and you're, oh, well, I listened to this and I read this article and they said this, and you're never really trusting anything or anybody. You're just kind of swinging at a pinata blindfolded. Because what's happening is your body's usually telling you something long before you recognize what it is you need. Right. And like you said, athletes running longer or cycling longer or swimming longer, like, and you know what you need. And there are just these things that we kind of go through some days where it's kind of like, I just need this today. You might not be able to put a finger on it. Right. But it's what you need to do. And you should do it every single time, because it's you looking out for you. Right. And it's also work. Right. You're working hard at what you're doing, and you're overcoming something. And it's something that's becoming, like, triathlon is becoming way too scripted in so many ways in training. And it's because, like, you got to let people live, because it's their journey. It's not the coach's journey. Right. It's the athlete's journey. It's going to be what you make of it. Right. Like, it's our job to help you along the way, to either, pull you along, walk side by side, or push you from the back. Like, that's just kind of how coaching works. But you've got to listen to what it is you feel like you need to do. Right. And it could be, I need, I had a couple athletes this weekend they're all on the West Coast, and they're like, yeah, we had the run this weekend, but we really just wanted to all hike together. Perfect. Right. Like, you listen to what it is that you needed, like going back to, 2 weeks ago, talking about making time for yourself. Sometimes you got to make more time for yourself than you make more time for what's on the training plan. Right. Yeah. It might be a 30-minute run, but you want to go an hour and a half. Like, we don't recommend that every day, because you're going to get hurt. But if you're fit enough, right, but you have the opportunity to do it. And generally, if you do it once, what you're doing is you're going to satiate that appetite for whatever it is you want to do. Right. And then you do it and you have this like huge sense of relief. And then like you've been able to do this thing and you become someone different sometimes. Like you've achieved something you didn't think you could achieve, and it changes kind of the fabric of who you are in a positive way. And then you're done and you go right back to, right back to the structure, right back to the script, however you want to call it. And you don't need to do it again. But if you hear those voices, right, and you feel those feelings and you continue to ignore them and ignore them and ignore them, well, that's when bad things happen, right? The further you push things down, the larger the eruption. And so there's never really a bad time of year to do it. It's just important to ask yourself why I feel like I need it. I've talked about this before. When I'm having a rough day mentally or emotionally, like my place to go is the bike. I'll hop on the bike and I can just bury myself. I don't do the pool. I don't do the run, but I do in the bike because it's generally a safe place to do it. Like you're not going to hurt yourself. Running is a little bit more difficult. Swimming, you should be fine. But yeah, it's important because, we do this for ourselves, right? And I just think it's an important topic for most athletes to continue to recognize that it's not going off script, right? Or going against the grain or going against your coach's wishes. It's pro you, right? I'm doing this for me because I need it. And as soon as I kind of take care of it, sometimes you just got to scratch your itch. And once you've scratched it, you get back to work. So just don't not scratch it because then, things get kind of itchy.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I wouldn't prescribe that necessarily on the run as much. But yeah, if you want to go out and ride, and we have these, kind of rules going into this time of year where if you're out riding, go for an hour, go to 3 hours, whatever, if you're in that's the thing is this guy was in the shape for that run. It just wasn't really in the lining up of the plan exactly, but it was perfect, to me. And then with the swim guy, with my athlete who went for the swim, I said, yeah, I'm cool with that, man, but let's not do that on the run this weekend because it's like, bite off little chunks and not get too greedy. But it's important, I think, to feel those things sometimes. We get stuck in ruts and you don't know why. And I love what you said about your body's telling you something a long time ahead if you're listening for signals and things like that. Just you just got to take advantage of the moment sometimes. And I think that those are the things, right, where you hear about it all the time. Where, out of the blue, like today or tomorrow, something could pop up in your life, which is an unbelievable opportunity, but you weren't even thinking about it. And you've heard it all the time where people will just be like, man, I think I'm going to do it. And it turns out to be great. It's just like being flexible or, being limber or ready to kind of go with the flow of the moment. And, I think about that during racing sometimes. We've talked about how, you can get real conservative in racing, and we advocate that for the most part early on and everything like that. But some days you're feeling good, but you don't trust it. But I think that's part of what's going on here is that you got to kind of trust your body. And if you're feeling good, you should know it. I'm big on the perceived RPE training and going by feel and stuff like that. And some days you just feel better. And I think, especially if you haven't been training a ton or maybe maybe you're off a big race and haven't done anything, it's easy to wake up, and you've heard it a million times, and 2 weeks later after the race and you haven't done much and you're like, damn, I'm so out of shape now, I can't do anything.
That's right. Yeah, I can't even walk down the block.
Yeah, I'm just pathetic. I don't know what the hell, but it's still in there. It's just these weird feelings you get when you get older. Even if you're training, you kind of get up sometimes, you're like, whoa, man, I don't know if I could do anything today, let alone whatever. And then you get out there and it's a whole different story. So just kind of paying attention to your body and that seize the moment thing is just huge. Sometimes you got to do it. It's like you see it all the time.
Yeah. It's so much of it comes down to just measuring your own intent, right? What is the intent behind this or this thought or this feeling or this endeavor? Like, what is it? Because I had a very similar exchange with an athlete coming off the weekend that, was like, yeah, I'm signing up for another marathon. And I was like, okay. And they're like, I think it's kind of a knee jerk reaction, yada, yada. And I said, well, I don't think it's really knee jerk. I can tell it's really important to you. Because that's where like the distinction lies. And then I followed up with, I said, we all have those things we're pulled to do for whatever reason. We need to do them to feel satisfied. And if they aren't done, then we feel a bit agitated. Because that's the truth, right? There's all these things we feel for whatever reason, even if we can't explain it, right? We just feel pushed or pulled to do this, right? You can't maybe put like it's not, we can't perfectly write out the exact reason why. We just feel like we just need to do it. And I think listening to yourself in those situations is really, really important, because, there's a reason you feel that way. And even if you can't rationalize it, it doesn't mean it's not important. And it also doesn't mean it's not possible. Right. And I think that's because in the sport that we live in, you never, especially as a coach, is like, you don't tell. I never really tell athletes yes or no. Like, hey, do you think I can be ready for this day? And even if I think it's the worst idea ever, totally irresponsible, not a chance in hell, you don't say that. You just say, if you want to do it, I will do my very best to get you in a position to where to give yourself the highest possible percentage to be successful. Now, whatever that looks like, it can be whatever it looks like. But it's not your job to tell people no, right? Unless they're going to be like, hey, can I sign up for a marathon tomorrow? Then you're like, no, don't be a moron. Like, yes. Then you say that a lot. Like, yes, I do, as a coach, I do say no frequently when they come with like irresponsible ideas that are going to hurt you and for the wrong reasons. But most of the time when an athlete comes like, do you think I can do this? I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. And you know what? I'm glad I don't. Because it would suck the life and the fun out of everything that we did. Everyone wants to predict the future, right? Everyone wants to know these certainties. Then what would you do with it? Right? Then what would you do? Stop working out? Stop training? And just assume it's like, and then what would you gain from it? Like half of the greatness that comes from endurance sports is the mystery and the wonder and the the not knowing if it's even possible. Like that's the fun of it, right? Like as if things were certain, like you wouldn't want to do. There's no excitement. There's no growth. It's all guaranteed, and guaranteed is bullshit. Like you don't want guarantees all the time. It makes you soft. Like you want things that kind of give you that healthy. You honestly like the baseline level of I think where everyone should hope to want to live is like when you sign up for the first time for an Ironman. You're kind of excited. You're also a ton scared, but you're super respectful of the distance and you're really just not sure. Like that is like, to me, like the best place to live, because then what happens, you see people do it for the first time and then they think once they've done it once that, oh, it's I got it. Yeah. It's easy now. Training goes down. They think they can just kind of wing it. This isn't going to be hard. I can just kind of do this. And then they stall out or they degress and you're like, well, why do you think that? Well, he's like, sophomore slump, right? You hear that all the time in professional sports. It's sophomore slump big time. Yeah. They didn't get worse. They just probably don't work as hard. Right. Or you see the same thing, when you got guys coming up for big contracts, they just all of a sudden have a breakout year, right? Because they know it's on the line. They work extra hard. They're in the building extra hours. And as soon as they get the max contract, what is it? Done. Right. They're toast. And that's just, we crave, for whatever reason, we've become a society where we want absolute certainty, right? We want guarantees. We have to feel safe 24/7. Like we want, like there's like that doesn't sound honestly like a really fun place to live for me. Like, yes. Do you want, all uncertainty? No, but you got to have some, right? Because if you don't, then you're not going to challenge yourself. You're not going to feel that level of risk. And, you and I, like, we started this podcast obviously from scratch and started your own business. You always have this like baseline level of, am I doing good enough? Am I working hard enough? How are things going? It's like, it's always there. And you're never really, you and I talk off air about it all the time, and especially being coaches in a sport where no one's ever done, right? No one's ever, I made this comment yesterday in Trinity Peaks. This girl was like she's coming back from Ironman, California. We're doing Boston next year. And her comment was like, yeah, I'm still not back from, recovery wise, and this pace isn't where I want to be yet. And I commented, I said, your pace is never going to be where you want it to be, because you're always going to want to be faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the job, right? Like that's like one of those unique things I think people don't really understand about coaching is like there is no like, you don't build a house and it's finished and move on to the next one. You're just like always building until you're not. And that's it. And so I think stuff like that is great and because again, going back to like listening to like, because usually it's like your heart or your soul that's telling you to do this. Like you just need it. But if you keep ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it, then what you're also doing is putting out your own fire. Like it's like a kid being like, hey, I want to be this when you grow up. And you're like, no, you don't. Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. It's like, I was listening to the story. I'm a huge Dolphins fan, and they were talking about their new head coach, and there's an offensive coordinator for the 49ers, McDaniels, and they showed, and they have a really great year. He's like 32. He's in unreal young. And they showed his football helmet from age 6. And inside the football helmet, he wrote, I will make it. And he meant was, I will make it to the NFL in some way, either as a player, as a coach, front office, I will make it. Think about how powerful that is, right? It's like and he probably didn't have any idea why, right? He's like, he didn't say, I want to be the future head coach of Miami Dolphins, right? Because, way back then, like no one wanted the job. But it's like, you never tell your kids, you don't want to do that. Be whatever you want to be. Sometimes Hayden's like, I want to be a landscaper when I grow up. I'm like, go for it. Like, you don't crush kids' dreams. And so many times as humans and as parents, like we should treat ourselves like we want it, like we try to treat our kids. Did you win? It's not, did you win? Did you have fun? Did you learn something?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Right. Learn these things and be whatever you want to be. Do whatever, instead of like feeling like we have to control. Again, going back to like structure and stripped and controlled. It's like, I have to do this. I have to. It's like, we don't have to. Like, you got to live a little. You like the athletes that, it's some of the rides we're giving out now. I literally have on a Saturday, because it's this time of year and you're kind of disconnecting, but there's always opportunities to let people flow. It's like you can ride for an hour and a half all the way up to 4, up to you. I call it soul riding. Do it for the soul. Do it like you want. And some people ride for 1 hour. Some people ride for 4. There's no wrong answer. Because if you did anything, it's the right answer, because you did what you felt. And there's strength and there's confidence and there's belief that comes from that, because you start to rely on you, right? And listening to yourself more than what something is always telling you, right? And that's the most important thing, and one of the most important aspects you can take in the racing is being able to listen to yourself, interpret it, ask yourself these questions, and then still be able to go out and do good work.
Live the life you were designed to live. I'm going to give you a second here to pull up is it the Edison quote, and then the other one about the screen time?
Oh yeah. So I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it's one of my favorite podcasts. It's always really short, but the title of it was called Revisiting the Blessing of Work. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, because like in today's society, it's like the opposite, right? Of what, like the 1 day work week, the 3-minute ramp test, the 1 minute threshold, run test. And it was a quote from Edison, and I've heard it a few times, and I actually listened to it 3 times over and over again. I started listening to my drive in the office, and I just kept playing in the background. I was working on Training Peaks. And the quote from Edison is opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work.
Yeah.
And the whole, it was the host of the podcast did his own kind of 30-minute, and then he had on this guest that was kind of that his life is about, science and data and America in the post-pandemic world. And so many Americans are neither working or looking for work. And he was talking about, in 2020 and 2021, when the government's giving handout after handout, like Oprah, during Christmas, and you get $500 and you get $500. It's like it trained people not to work. And you had the people asking like, hey, I'm out busting my ass all day long while my buddies are sitting at home making more money than I am. And so you think, like, we get tricked in a society thinking like those were the winners, right? Those were the winners. but they weren't, because they weren't working for it. Kind of going back to our last podcast, talked about, earning your first car and how you treat it versus being given one. And then, so the whole thing was about what work does for you. It gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of belief, right? Of like people always say, like, don't make your passion your job. I'm like, that's bullshit. I fucking love my job, right? And it's a huge passion of mine. And I wake up every day incredibly thankful that I get to do what I love for a quote unquote job, right? And then he talked about how people are becoming. It's basically talking about men and how fucking lazy we are. But he said, there's over half of the population of people in the workforce that aren't working are men, and the average male who doesn't work right now, again by choice, consumes over 20,000 hours of screen time a year. And over half of those men that aren't working are on some kind of pain medication. So he said, basically, they're all playing video games stoned. is basically what he said, and it was anyway. So it's a short podcast, but all he talked about was how meaningful and how grateful you should be because you get to work. And it's like certain things in life you just never forget for whatever reason. About 2 years ago in our Crushing Iron Facebook group, a guy came in there. It's always the dudes. Guy came in there and, post whatever. I think it was like Thanksgiving, where everyone kind of rolls out of bed and does a 5K. And he was like, rolled out of bed this morning, did a 5K, and he ran something just like, insane, like a 19-minute 5K rolling out of bed. He's in his late 20s, early 30s, people like that can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple comments below that were like so jealous of it. So jealous. Mm-hmm. And then a couple comments that were like disheartening. And because they were like, I work my ass off and I won't ever come close to that. And you could tell there was a sense of admiration and a sense of jealousy. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking to myself, those are all opposite of what I feel when I see that. I see a few things. I see, one, what a shame that you can do that rolling out of bed and you don't know what it's like to work hard for it, right? Or if you did work hard, what could you do? Because the what you get isn't like the race result. And we always talk about, Ironman, the finish line, is just like graduation. Nobody remembers that. Nobody talks like, oh man, I'll never forget graduation day where I sat in this hot, sweaty auditorium for 5.5 hours and listened to this really horrific speaker that I didn't have any clue who they were, but they went to the school like 8 years ago and donated a bunch of money. And then I walked across the stage and my parents yelled something that thought was be funny, but it wasn't funny. And I got all embarrassed and I went and sat down and waited 3 more hours before we went to my grandparents' house and had small sandwiches. No one remembers that shit. They remember the 4 years leading up to that, the friends they made, the late night studying, how proud they were to be doing what they were doing, getting an education. That's what it's like to cross an Ironman finish line, right? It's the work that makes you who you are. It's not the result. It's not. So whether you're working so hard, right, to get a result that you think isn't good enough, it's the work that's good enough. Because working hard is what makes you who you are. And there's the harder you work, the better you get at it and the more you get from it. It doesn't go anywhere else. You don't stop working, right? Like you might get lucky, right? And that's like a huge trick. One of the other comments he said, he said, show me a guy with a small fortune, and I'll show you a guy who lost a large fortune. Because the guy with the small fortune probably lost it all because he got lucky, and then he kept taking risks and doing things because he thought, he was destined to do this and do that. And the same thing goes with athletes, and they have one race time where they don't do very well, or they didn't train very well, and they think that's like they can just do it all the time, and they just stop working hard at it. Like, it's not about the result; it's about the work, right? We have athletes all the time. Reach out to both of us, be like, you know what, like. I never thought that, getting triathlon coaching or coaching in general would lead me down this path, but it has helped me in my career. It has helped me at home. It has helped me with being a parent. I've gotten job promotions. I got this, and I would never have had this confidence, or I've never have gotten there if it hadn't been for And the thing is like they say it's coaching, but it's not. It's what they're really trying to say is if I hadn't have instilled a different piece in my life that showed me what it was like to work hard and be consistent at it. Because when you're consistent and you work hard, then you're almost always that way in every aspect of life. You work hard, you're consistent, you're accountable, you're motivated. You very rarely see, people who are super consistent and motivated in triathlon be just lazy sacks, right? It doesn't go together, right? It's infectious to everything in your life. So while you might be, especially because we have Thanksgiving coming up, and you got your bro from Seattle coming in town who's 23 and hadn't worked out in 6 years, and is going to go rip off a 5K that's 3 minutes faster than yours. Probably coming off a pre-Thanksgiving bender, and you've been training for 3 years, and you're going to lose them by like 3 minutes. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous at all, because you know what hard work is like. And hard work is something that you can take with you forever, because it makes you who you are. And like we talked about this before we went live today, going back to the taking the risks, right? And pushing yourself. Because I often think this way about myself is like, 8-9 years ago when I was first getting sober, my life was just, it felt really, really, really impossible. And so for years after that, like even like something that might like shatter someone's life, to me was like, it's just a Wednesday. I think I'll be fine. Like you just kind of roll the punches. Like and so like oftentimes think like, what feels hard now, right? Was that a super easy breezy day 5 years ago? Life is good, because there are traps to being comfortable. There are traps to life being, in my opinion, too good and getting too complacent, because you stop growing. Do you need to go, you need to take out your savings account and walk into the casino and be like, you know what? I'm going to risk it all today. I'm going to play blackjack. I'm going to put it all on the line and see what happens. No, we're not advocating that. But what we are saying is that if you're not challenging yourself, if you're not taking small, and we can call it whatever you want. You can call it risk, you can call it whatever. But a lot of people are just way too comfortable. Like you got to take you got to grow, because your challenge is to grow, right? To grow and to live. Your challenge isn't to die and be complacent.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something you even touched on, I think last podcast was I want to keep feeling younger. And like, people think you're like 45 when we go out to lunch. Like they think I'm like your older brother, and it's not really a fun place for me to be in, but it's what it is. It's work hard, get uncomfortable, and grow. And that should be your number one challenge every day.
Yeah. I think work can have a negative connotation, but if you can shift your perspective on it, you think about like athletes that are really successful, and they're, how'd you do it? The reporter asked them, and they said, well, I put in the work. And in that context, it really seems like a great thing. Or you can ask somebody, I got to go work, whatever. And I was out to lunch with a buddy of mine who's known me my whole life the other day, and we were talking, and he's a teacher. He drives every day an hour to work and back. And he also coaches after. He's always real at kind of peace with himself, because he works his ass off. And he looks at me and he says, I do it. I just love it. I love helping kids and teaching and coaching and the whole 9 yards. And then he also looked at me and he said, you're a different person than you were 10 years ago. And which coincides with me basically starting the sport. And there's a lot of things in that, because I always knew I was kind of that guy. I worked hard, but I kind of had sort of a level of skill athletically. But that does go back to my youth when, all I did, it wasn't called work. It was work, but we were playing sports nonstop as a kid. So whether I was talented out of the womb or not is an argument that we can make, but we went at it, and I just enjoyed it. And we played until our hands bled, or, our knees were broken. It's like we just did it every single day, and that was something that was instilled in me somehow, some way, and it made me who I was as an athlete through high school and college and everything like that. And I knew I had it in me, but that's about when I hit the wall, and I started working in corporate, and I knew I was mad at myself a lot, I think, because I was just letting that kind of atrophy in the background, sort of that muscle movement thing was just kind of going away. I was more turned inward into brain stuff. You know, it was that being in the meetings and, you know, being on top of the game. And that was work. You know, I wasn't doing the outside work for my body. And so I live in a really kind of low level angst sometimes as I go around the city, and I just, you know, wherever I am, and I just see what people are doing, you know, and just sitting there not doing anything, man. And it's very kind of depressing, because like that screen quote that you said earlier is, I think, what I've felt for a long time. I've just felt that momentum sort of taken over. And what we do, what everyone listening to this podcast does, is sort of breaks that trend that's always omnipresent. It's always in your face, and literally as a screen or whatever it may be, or other people saying stuff to you like, you know, I'm always about, you know, I'm moving up to the lake house and we're going to get a cold plunge tank probably. And I tell people that sometimes just for the hell of it. And they're like, why the hell would you do that? Oh, that's not, I mean, it's at a point, dude, where I can't even, I don't have the energy to even explain it. Yeah. It's like, because I just like to do, and what you just said, I like to live my life in a way that makes me feel good and feel younger as I get older. And that means the people that ask they're just so far removed from anything like that. It just seems like a complete foreign language. And it's really weird to me, man. I don't understand how people can't, you know, sort of follow their passion and want to feel better. But I think there's so much hypnosis around, whether planned or not planned, that it's always there, and it's very difficult to break. So, you know, kudos to everybody out there listening to this and pushing themselves and doing the work. And work is a good thing. And I think back a lot, man, we're all, you know, nobody's immune, right? If I still trained as hard as I did for my first Ironman, I'd probably be in a way different place, dude.
You'd be in the Hall of Fame, man.
I mean, this is like my, 8th sophomore slump. You know, it's kind of like, there's one thing to be said for confidence, but there's quite another to be said for having that healthy amount of fear that you talk about. Because, you know, it's true. I mean, you know, Ironman doesn't scare me, but that's not the point. I got to figure out, you know, maybe my scare is
feeling old
and not hitting your potential. And that, when people ask, what are you afraid of? And that is always the thing I always say. It doesn't necessarily mean I back it up, but it's like that I didn't do the things that I always thought about doing. And man, that is a driver sometimes, but it has to be more in the forefront, because I know everyone out there has things they want to do. And, you know, as you get older, then you start to, you know, a little bit more sore in the morning and things aren't coming as easier. It doesn't get any easier. So that's the fear. Like at some point, damn, I just turned the wrong corner here and I don't know if I can get back. That's a healthy fear with me, man.
Do what now?
That's a healthy fear with me, I'm saying.
I mean, listen, we all, again, like that, you combine the two perfect words, a healthy fear, right? Not an anxiety driven, you know, fear of failure that makes you run away and not compete, right? Like there's always going to be things we don't think we're good enough at. Always, right? But it's what you do when you have that feeling and how you respond to it that makes things better. Like some of the biggest changes I've ever made with my own coaching is I've just woken up and for a reason thought I needed to be better. And it wasn't like I just need to quit coaching. It was, what can I do to be better? I'm going to work hard, you know, and the perfect combination with everything in life is, you know, the appetite to work hard for a purpose and a passion, right? That's like the best, most successful combination you can have, because there's always gonna be a purpose and you're always gonna be passionate for it. And if you want to work hard, all those things are going to come to you, you know, and it's a great place to be in, because you also never think that you're finished, right? Like I'm absolutely 100% terrified of retiring someday. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. I love to work. I just do. I love it. I'm gonna be the 65-year-old guy bagging groceries with a C26 hat on, trying to talk triathlon to people checking out. Like that's gonna be me. That's gonna be. I'll be bagging like, yeah, would you want paper or plastic? Like, yeah. I'm like, what's your stance? 20-minute FTP or ramp test. They'd be like, what? And they're like, Robbie, move to register 9. I'll go down there and be like, so are you snorkel, or are you no snorkel and no swim fin, just pull buoy paddles? What's your stance? That's gonna be me when I'm just absolutely terrified to to retire, because I just love it. But it doesn't mean I feel safe doing it. Right. Mm-hmm. I love it because I love how it pushes me and it challenges me and it makes me continue to work hard and there's like you said, it's a healthy fear, and there's, I think we all have healthy fears. Yours is, not reaching your potential. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think there's always like these small little, comments and phrases that we hear that kind of drive us to where we are, and it kind of give us that kick in the rear end that kind of like puts our work ethic into overdrive, right? And I know like you said, you get tired of explaining to people what the whole cold plunging is, because you do. Like I'm like, I could explain it to you, but it's not gonna do either one of us any good. It's like your family, again, coming for the holidays, your family that's going to give you a hard time for running these races you don't have to do. Like, you could just sit on your couch. And like, I do. I could just sit on my couch, and I know that because I see you sitting on your couch and I see how you feel, and I'd rather not feel like that. Right.
Exactly.
It's like you get tired of explaining it, but you always want, at least me, like I just love to work. I love to work hard. And yes, while it's necessary to take time off, right, from training and from your job and from life, taking vacation is hard for me. I don't do well with it. It's necessary, but I love what I do, and I know you do too. And it's like one of those things but you also respect that to a degree to where you always want to keep that level, right, of work. And that's how you should find yourself with training, and do things that make you more appreciative and explore, right, and take risks, and don't be so restrained, right? And we're coming up on the last run camp of this year, then we got another one in February. That camp, and like our camps are where people come to community, right? They get to come around people, they get to get away from life, and they come to expand their horizon and their belief of who they thought they were. And then they leave different, not because of you and I, right? Mm-hmm. We're not that special. We just have a mediocre podcast that's going to outlast everybody, because we're consistent. But we're the 70 to 74 age group qualifiers, that go to Kona. We provide an opportunity, right? We're the ones that host an opportunity for different people of different levels to come to the same place, to be energized by each other, to find belief within themselves, to do something they didn't think they could do, right? You see it at camp, you see it in open water, in the pool. They get out of their heads. They do something they didn't think they could do. They ride longer. They do more hills, right? They show up to run camp. We've had people do their first half marathon at run camp on some of the hardest terrain you're ever going to see.
Yep.
Right? It's like rocks, roots, super hilly, super technical. And oh, by the way, they've probably ran 20 miles 3 days before. Right? And but they get out of their own head and they just do it. And like I called an athlete out that I worked with last year who ran like 17 miles and hadn't done like an open half marathon in forever. And I got done and I said, you're fucked. Excuse my language. But they started laughing, and I said, you got so much more in you than you thought you did. Mm-hmm. And because they always play it safe because they don't know. And that's the thing, is like, once you unlock that piece of you that you've kind of never thought it was an option, right, to unlock. It's not like some broom closet. It's usually like a freaking 400 by 300 storage unit that you could park 5 18-wheelers in, because the whole world seems like it opens up for you. But you got to be willing to break that door down, because most people are afraid that it's going to be vacant, right? There's nothing going to be in there, or there's going to be another wall behind it, or you open this door and there's a brick, a concrete wall that's been built up. It's not. But you know what else? That's also the terrifying part for people, is to see their potential. Because then, like you said, then it raises the bar for meeting that potential. But that's where, right? But because I think that's true for everybody. Like you stop, people stop short, like on Seinfeld, people stop short of really figuring out what their ceiling is or where they think their ceiling is, because then they have expectations that follow of, oh my gosh, I didn't think I'd do this, and now I've kind of like blown those smithereens, and there's more expectations, and there's more this, and there's more that. That's great, right? But most people are terrified of it. There's a lot of pressure for this, a lot of pressure for that, but there's that's where you grow. That's where you grow. And that's just one of those things where you always, like, it's something that I consistently have to work on. Like, I was talking to this like pre-Halloween party we walked down the street to before trick-or-treating, and it was like a group, it was like 10 houses of people. It's a bunch of parents and a bunch of kids. It's not my wheelhouse at all. And this lady was like, yeah, she was like, I don't do, she was like, this is like my jam, but when it comes to like speaking to 1,000 people, I get all acclaim. And like, I would rather stand up on stage and speak to 1,000 strangers than come to a party like this because it's totally out of my comfort zone, but it's also good for me. And it's just one of those things where you recognizing, what you're afraid of or you're anxious about, and then acting on it in a positive way and not running from it. That's how you grow, right? Even if you don't do it over and over again, you've proven and you've shown yourself that you're not going to run away, right? You're not going to keep being comfortable. You're going to at least push yourself and figure things out. And I think it's an important trait and characteristic for everyone to have is don't be afraid to find your potential, and don't be afraid to be in an endless pursuit to get there. Because putting an expiration date on it can be suffocating.
Yeah. Why do you do Ironman? That's the question that I get. And I know everyone out there probably gets it. And it's just an unbelievable question, really. And I just, like you said, man, I get kind of tired. I can't even answer anymore. It's like, you got to push yourself. And I guess that's the end of it. It's like, I see so much more potential. You go through it, what people can do. And it's just sitting there, but everyone just wants to call you I think it's nuts. I think you're ridiculous. Why would you even do that kind of thing? Why do you do what we do? And it just bleeds into every aspect of your life, right? And I know you're the same way. We just look at things and people are amazed by it. I'm like, not even amazed. It's doesn't seem that hard, to do little things sometimes. And but so many people are just kind of tied in knots. And I just think that it's one of those things that we have to adjust mentally. And I think we all go through it in little phases where, no, I can't do that. And it's just your mind in that moment. And how do you do that? You just got to move. You got to go create that momentum somehow. Man, I was down at Boca del Vista the other day, and I was I was doing my I have a new thing where I do sauna, swim, and then sauna. I go a double, and I got my sauna done. I walk out and I'm all sweaty and everything. I get to the pool, and there's got to be 30 women in the shallow end doing their aerobics. And there was a lot of, bigger women in there, and they were working it. And I was like, oh, this is awesome, man. Because it just takes, I think, courage to take that step for a lot of people. And I walk over and I grabbed the pull buoy out of there, and it's all the way in the end. So I got to walk all the way in front of like across the stage. You know what I'm talking about? With the instructors on the deck and I pick up the pull buoy and I realized the song came on. It was that song, It's Raining Men. It was like, it was unbelievable timing. And I was just smiling, man. They're all just doing their aerobics and looking up, and it was just, and I was the only one swimming. It was just so great, man. But I just love it down there because there's so many people that are just pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're older, man. It's Boca del Vista. It's old people, and including me. But like, so many people are doing it, and it's just really inspiring because then you step out of that atmosphere, and then you go into Walmart or wherever, Farm and Fleet, which is my new fleece headquarters. But it's just a different
I thought
story.
It for sure would be Tractor Supply, and you're going to come to Run Camp with like a whole new set of Carhartts on.
Oh, they got Carhartt there.
I don't doubt it, man. For Carhartt and flannels is what I'm seeing you come to camp in. Is kind of, I can already kind of picture it. Overalls and the whole new C26 get up coming to the online store near you with C26 Carhartts, camo flannels. It's coming. It is coming. All sponsored by Boca del Vista. And
I haven't.
Store.
I haven't crossed the line into the Carhartt jean area, or the or work denim or whatever the hell it is. I can't.
What did you just call it? Work denim?
I don't know what they call it. The work pants or whatever.
Good find out. You know me. I don't ever wear jeans.
Yeah, I know.
Anti-jean. It's like suffocating your legs. Who wants to wear jeans? Because all they do is keep getting tighter.
Yeah. Well,
you see, I'm like, how do you breathe in those? Like, how do you breathe? You can't even sweat because your pores are dying. I mean, like, you look at the jeans these days, and seriously, on
yeah.
F1,
these are the guys watching TV, man.
I know. I'm like, how do you even? Well, they know they got to watch standing because there's no way you can sit down in the jeans people wear these days.
That's a good point.
They don't even come down to like below your ankle. Now they come up to above your ankle. I really do think like the new trend was set by supply chain shortages. Blue jean, blue jean manufacturers were like, shit, we need to cut costs. You know what we should do? Let's just make them shorter. People will probably think it's great. We'll save, for every 7 pairs of jeans we used to make, we'll be saving a pair. That's how we got to keep, a good bottom line. So they start selling like, oh, dude, I got. You see those new, like on fucking high waters, like that's what's happening. Now people wear tight, super tight jeans again, less fabric. And they become like your ankles are freezing.
No socks.
I don't understand what people are doing now with. I mean, but those people that wear the jeans, they're not sitting down because you can't. It's impossible. You can't bend your knees. There's no way. You can't bend your knees in tight jeans. I'm just saying, like, where did the boot cut jeans go? I mean, those should have always stuck around forever.
Oh yeah, Carhartt's got those.
I mean, the work jeans is that what you guys? No, work denim. That's our new line of C26 guys.
It's more like canvas.
C26 work denim.
Work canvas.
Yeah, I mean it's fucking jeans. It used to be Wrangler. I'm sure people like back in the day that were rocking Wrangler because that's who wore jeans. Now look at the jeans that these young kids are wearing. They're so freaking tight. There's no way they have underwear on either. You can't do both. You can't.
Well, now we're getting into an area that's just a little weird.
I mean, it's just like it seems borderline impossible. I mean, I'm not sure that we're the two guys anyone should listen to about fashion choices. At least for me, you're much more fashionable than I am.
I don't know about that, dude. Speaking of which, we have some hoodies in the new hoodie with the everybody's favorite C26 suit inspired kit.
Oh yeah,
hoodies. We have more
combo.
of those. Yeah, the neon logo that's on the website. I took a few new pictures too. They were a little crinkly. It's like
nothing wrong with crinkly.
I know. It's just I updated the photos, but yeah, we have some more hoodies in if you want to go get them.
Yeah, head to the website, check those out. Also check out our training plans we've got. Those are open for 2023. You got about a little over 2 more weeks. You got 3 weeks to sign up for those before we close it out. Start December 1st. Again, if you have any questions about those plans and how they work and what they offer, and how they're delivered, you can email Summer, c26operations@gmail.com. You can also head over to our one-stop shop. That's all things C26, and that is c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for coaching options for next year, personalized coaching, click on the coaches tab and peruse through their roster of coaches. And then also if you're looking for just a training plan, click on that tab and check out what we have. If you need anything from Mike, or advice on clothing, you can email him directly, crushingiron@gmail.com. If anything from me specifically, I'm available, c26coach@gmail.com.
I'm still picturing you in that checkout line with that C26 hat on.
Tell you. Oh, before we go, I went to my haircut lady yesterday. I went to Teresa.
Okay.
A little update on Haircut Gate. Yeah. And you know what she said when I sat down?
Boy, you using a new shampoo?
When was how long? Your hair is full.
Shut up.
And I swear, because it's been about 5 weeks. I've just kind of been like, I don't want to go back. You made me feel bad.
Yeah.
She's like, it's kind of getting long on the sides. I was like, oh my God. Unbelievable. But yeah, it's full. Fucking full set of hair.
Nice. Congrats, man. You must be doing something right. I had my hair cut last week. I sent you a picture.
You did send me a picture.
not of the hair. I had a 4:45 haircut appointment, and I sent you a picture of my watch, my Garmin, out on the street at 4:52.
It's lightning quick.
Was it 4:50? Yeah, it was like 7 minutes.
Yeah, I get they're like, do you want to shampoo and condition and the head massage? I'm like, no, I got work to do. Get me out of here. Give me a little blow dry, wipe the neck. I'm on my way. And I think it's weird. I'm like, I don't know.
She charges me $15 for a haircut, which I think is pretty outstanding these days.
People keep talking about inflation. That doesn't sound like inflation. $15?
$15 here in Beloit, Wisconsin. And I tip her more than that. But I was figuring she makes about $500 an hour cutting my hair. Good for her, man. Yeah. She's figured it out.
She works hard and she loves her job. That's right. She's passionate about it. And we're passionate about this podcast and are passionate about you, our listeners. We appreciate you. We love you. Have an outstanding weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
All right, bud. See you.